talent management. He is a talent management practitioner with global experience across various sectors. The last role he was before he started on his own Abhijit Badri Associates. He was the chief learning officer for Wipro. He has lived and worked on global talent initiatives across multiple countries. He's got nearly 1 million followers on LinkedIn. He's a top voice to follow on LinkedIn. He has a newsletter on LinkedIn, which has more than 240,000 subscribers. In 2021, he got the Lifetime Achievement Award for HR. He's voted among the top 10 voices in leadership in 2022. In 2022, this year, he got the ETHR HR Influencers of 2022. So welcome, Abhijit. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today morning. So we just want to, first of all, congratulate you on your new career move that you have done. So my first question, in fact, which everybody would also wanting to be asking is, what prompted you to take this move?
I thought, Rashmi, that 25 साल की उम्र में अगर रिस्क नहीं लूंगा तो कब लूंगा, तो इसलिए मैंने सोचा कि रिस्क ले लेना चाहिए. So I decided to actually it's an interesting question because I've always believed that when you most of the times I think when I've in the past made a bad decision about a career, it's because I walked away from something because I was unhappy and therefore walked away from unhappiness and joined something. In that situation, you always make wrong choices. This was very clearly one of the situations where, the very small business that I did was thriving. We were working across across the world with the biggest brands. Microsoft was also, by the way, a client. They were the very first client that I signed on when I started my own firm. But we've worked with Disney, VMware, Adobe, Microsoft, and a bunch of other people globally. So we were really doing well, and therefore it took a lot for me to think about, should I just quit it and go back to the workspace again as an employee? So yeah, it was again, as I said, I walked towards the opportunity, which was, for me, the opportunity I've always loved technology. And, this is a time when you look at Microsoft in terms of where it is positioned. It has got LinkedIn, which tells you what a great source of career data, so that's one. You have Office, which tells you what kind of things are people talking about. You sort of really look at Activision, where they've got one of the biggest gaming companies. It was a $60 billion acquisition. And then you sort of look at all the hardware that they have, besides, of course, every other laptop, and the reach is phenomenal. And of course, when I look at HoloLens and what they're doing in the cloud, where in every particular field, when you look at it, the opportunity is phenomenal. Last but not the least, this is the opportunity to work with someone like Satya Nadella is inspiring for somebody in learning, because he's one of the CEOs who actually talked about changing the company based on creating from Microsoft used to be a know-it-all culture, so to be a learn-it-all culture. And learning is part of what Satya has actually tried to do in terms of culture shift, so focusing on things like psychological safety, thinking on, how do you build skills. And when I look at the kind of work that they've done is absolutely stunning. The amount of research that they've done. So I'm part of Talent Learning and Insights. So the insights are drawn out of the 180,000 employees that Microsoft has. Is like a lab where they are continuously because everything is online,
Mm.
So the opportunity to really, if you say, how much does an average meeting last? What are people describing? Because in a meeting, you don't need to take notes. There's transcription happening in real time. You can have closed captions. So you really know what are the conversations. You can do um, the analysis of sentiments. You can do analysis of content. So all of this put together, if you sort of really look at it, the breadth and depth of the canvas,
The platform was just too engaging and too
it's
interesting
just,
for you to
yeah,
let go of.
it's just the biggest learning role in the world, and if I get a chance to do it, why wouldn't I? So
Yeah.
it was really that.
Yeah. So,
So
Abhijit, you passed out from Exlara in 1984.
that's right.
That's a very short time back. So, but
True.
how did you actually, sort of shape your careers, from 84 till now? I mean, it's been decades, right, in the middle.
I've the truth of the matter is I have not really I as they say, sometimes when you look back, you can always describe a great strategy behind this. But I think when I did, at least in the initial few years, I don't think it was really driven by any great thought, but I wish I had. I think the only thing that I tried to do was to work in different sectors and really test this whole hypothesis that whether what I learned in one particular thing, the cumulative learning, how much of that actually applies in the new sector that I was in. So, for example, when I joined Mudra in advertising, there was a very small industry at that point of time. So what drew me to Mudra was, for instance, the opportunity to set up MICA as a B school, which I thought it was a once
Oh,
in
so
a
you set
lifetime.
it up. That's awesome.
I
I didn't
mean,
know that.
I was one of the many people who worked on
Oh,
doing that. But yeah, so it was something that I did. That was the attraction for me. I said, how many times in my life will I get a chance to set up something like this? So that was there. So I think, uh, but everybody that time told me that, nobody in the right senses, if you're a HR guy, nobody in the right senses wants to work in advertising. It's a dead end thing. So I kind of thought that, okay, that fundamentally means that it's an opportunity because there are no benchmarks. So kuch bhi karoge, wo benchmark banta hai na. So then it becomes much easy for you to sort of do that. So in that sense, sometimes it's also, in retrospect, if it doesn't work out, it'll seem very foolish. But by and large, I think if you have a certain amount of self-awareness and make a move, I think even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else, and it makes sense to you, I think it sort of works out. So, for example, when I left Microsoft, I was working for them as the head of India HR. I joined Wipro. Wipro actually at that point of time had two openings. One was the head of HR, and the other was the chief learning officer role. So when I decided to take the role of chief learning officer, everybody said, what a stupid move it is to go from CHRO to a role that reports to the CHRO. So it's like taking a step back. And I said, but, I don't have to, answer anyone else to say why I did it or why I didn't. So why wouldn't I do it? And it is probably the best decision that I made. And I think a lot of what I got a chance to experiment in that new role, because they were setting up a chief learning officer role for the very first time. And, what an opportunity it was for me to learn about all the sectors, because, it in some sense, Wipro works with across all sectors, from manufacturing, automobiles, healthcare, avionics, everything. So to get that, it was a great opportunity for me to, do that. So it's like the equivalent of working across so many sectors. So I think if you, in your mind, you are clear about what you're seeking to get out of it, I think that's what I would think makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so while we were discussing today morning, you said that you will, sort of have an open discussion around what is changing in terms of careers today, and you had some thoughts. So it would be great if you can share it, and then we can then put it open for
Yeah,
the
I'll talk about it first, and then I'll send you a short, set of slides, because that's always much easier. So one of the things to, keep in mind is, in some sense, this is really the book that I'm, going to be publishing. I've written it already. So this is about how careers are changing, and it builds on what I've written about in Dreamers and Unicorns, also in a very small way first. So first principle is work, worker, and workplace actually are interlinked. So if you change the way we work, it changes what you look for in the talent pool. Yeah. Um, and when you sort of change the talent pool, you need a different kind of a workplace. So the role of HR is at the center of this workplace, worker kind of a triumvirate. Yeah. So for example, before the industrial revolution, you had the agrarian economy. So in that, so that was a kind of work. You had to work in the fields to grow stuff. So your workplace was the field. Work was to grow food. So it demanded agricultural skills, that you should be able to understand how the plants move up, and what kind of corn, and what grows in which month, and what doesn't grow. All of that is the skill set. Yeah. You fast forward it to say 1776 kind of a time frame, 1760s actually. You look at the steam engine that suddenly changed the way we work. The first industrial revolution was all about textiles. So work was about using steam to create textiles. So the agricultural skills no longer were valid. It was about how to create stuff for textiles. So work and workers both changed. So the workplace was the factory, and the factory is run by a very different set of norms than, let's say, the agricultural economy. Um, Fast forward another 100 years, second industrial revolution, 1870s. If you sort of look at it, by this time, steam is replaced by electricity. What it means is the way you are working. So it was really not so much about textiles, it was about automobiles. Automobiles was really what was being produced. It was being done in shifts, because with electricity you were no longer dependent on on just the sunlight to keep the factory going. You could work 24/7. That means new roles were created. Shift supervisor came in. You had new kinds of ways of working, that continuous mass production came in. So the kind of skills, so work and the skill set which in the workforce and the workplace, again that changed. So HR's role was to create the regulatory framework so that it attracts talent, and you are able to sort of do that. So this is really what happened, and this is also what is happening today. Therefore, when you're looking at there was a point of time we would look at careers from the point of view of the employer. So you join a workplace and the employer says, well, this is how we work. You like it, you work for us. You don't like it, go somewhere. Because the entire notion was that the employer, it was always, in fact, if you look at law, the law always sides with what they define as the weaker segment. So in a landlord-tenant kind of a scenario, the law is in favor of the tenant, because the belief is they need protection. In case of a marriage between a husband and a wife, traditionally the wife has been the weaker person in the relationship, because many of them were, at that point of time did not pursue their careers, etc. So law was designed to protect them. In the employer-employee scenario, it is the employee who was seen to be the weaker person. So a lot of things have changed since. And what has changed? So a lot of times when you think about the Great Resignation, for example, you will see much conversation around the fact that that it's people are unhappy with their life. This one is paying more, so therefore people are going. Uh, it's actually none of that. I mean, fundamentally, what is changing is what we define careers to be has changed. And this is what we are seeing is actually the point where there's a transition, which is the third wave of careers. So, what I define as career 1.0 is the three-stage career: learn, earn, and retire. Traditionally, I mean, a lot of the public sector works like that. The government works like that. Many of the fields, they work like that. You do your education, you find a job, and that's the last time you have to study. And now after that, if you want to get reskilled, it's the employer's headache to find a way to reskill you, and uska problem hai. But you are stuck there, and you kind of retire, and then you become irrelevant. Yeah. So that's career 1.0. Career 2.0, if you think about it, career 2.0 is and by the way, in India, this 1.0 was the model until the economy opened up in 91, 92. It was.
Government jobs also, right?
Yeah, government jobs are all in that career 1.0 model that you join and then you retire, so you're learning. I mean, yeah, you will go across for, some odd course or some such thing. In a number of instances, you kind of really look at it. It doesn't, for most of the skill building, there isn't a radical shift in the skill because the workplace doesn't change that drastically. So if you remember, we started by saying work, worker, and workplace. If the workplace doesn't change, the workforce skill change has no relevance or meaning, So if the government continues to work in a certain kind of a way, and I'll give you a good example of this. I was recently trying to get my driver's license, geez. I'm sorry. I was trying to get my driver's license address changed. Funny thing is they changed the address, but they made your driver's license to the old address. So I said, this is absolutely asinine. I mean, why would you mail it to the old address? The whole point is that's why I'm changing it. So they said, no, as far as we are concerned, we want to verify that you are the one who's changing it. I said, but how would you know that? Because I'm no longer living there. So they said, but this is the rule, boss, you have to go and collect it. Now it's a different matter. I have friends who are living in the same place. I'll pick it up from there. But I said, why didn't you change it here? He said, no, you can't change it because that's how the system has been designed. Now you think about it. I can't be the only human being who's got his address changed. But all the feedback and everything, nothing changes in that whole place. And we all have that view that, it will not change. Yet, when there is some kind of an initiative, if you think about it, ironically, you look at digital finance, India is probably cutting edge worldwide after maybe China, in terms of the amount of monetary transactions. I mean, the guy who's selling coconut water on the streets accepts Paytm or whatever, digital wallets. So you see, India is that amazing land of contradictions. But from a career point of view, the first place where it opened up, where it became acceptable for somebody to take risks, was in the 90s after liberalization, where people said, yeah, he's become an entrepreneur. Otherwise, it was really mostly, you'd say, traditionally business families. The family provided the support system. Even now, in many of the communities, I mean, for example, if you see the diamond trade, the Palanpuri Jains, they own pretty much most of the, diamond trade. And it's sort of understood that what you do by way of education is completely irrelevant to the fact that you need to learn the business, which is very different. You need to understand, because error in judgment could mean millions. So it is a very highly skilled process which has evolved, and they are very powerful in places like Antwerp and South Africa and all of that. I mean, these are people who kind of control 90% of the world's diamond trade. One community, yeah. Even in that, your notion of career is predetermined. So very often when we think about careers, we tend to believe that we are getting educated and that is where we are taking charge of our careers. But careers are defined by hundreds of factors, hundreds. We just become aware of one or two of them. I mean, for example, everybody who finishes this course is not going to end up in the same place in their career journey. When I look at my sort of batchmates, people have done different things. I mean, there are people who become, so in my book, I've talked about the fact that there are people in my class who've become spiritual leaders, moved on to do something else in the private sector, become CEO of a company, now doing something else as an entrepreneur. This to me is possible when A, you have higher risk-taking ability, 2, you have a little more of a financial cushion. And which is what changed in 1991, much as we don't want to sort of really look back and think about it, because there was the opportunity to, salaries increased. After XLRA, when I started, my salary was 2,800 or 2,500, I don't remember. That was what it was. It was so bad. I mean, it was so bad. I used to stay with my parents. I would still run short of money. That is the truth of the matter. I mean, my wife and I used to, go for a drive in the car once a month. And while coming back, I used to, leave the garage door open. I used to stay with my parents, as I said, where there was a garage door. I used to shut off the engine. So the last bit, speed up and shut the engine. So, you save the fuel to just, and I perfected that art. I would sort of know exactly where to shut it off and it would reach there. See, this is where it was. Suddenly, post-91, salaries changed. Suddenly people said, this guy has got a salary of 50,000. I give you a real-time example. When I was at XLRI, one of the companies, Schlumberger, came to offer jobs. Yeah. And we were in that 2,500 to 3,000 kind of a zone of salary. That was our expectation. Ki boss, matlab 3,000 se kam to apan paisa nahi lenge. So we were in that zone. Schlumberger came and said that, we will do this, that, and the other. And so they suddenly said that, your salary is going to be 60,000. हमने कहा पगला गया है क्या? 3,000 से 60,000 per month, मतलब करेगा क्या आदमी? 60,000. Then he said per month, and we were thinking 60,000 per year, मतलब 5,000. 5,000 per month. Then he said no, 60,000 per month. What he said after that, nobody figured out, because we just went crazy. हमने कहा ये पागल हो गया यार, मतलब okay, I want to join, but करना क्या वो सब बाद में सोचेंगे. Let's go there. And then some idiot asked this whole question, sir, what about car allowance? So, the guy says you don't get a car allowance, you'll have your private helicopter. So, हमने कहा कहाँ से आया यार, ये फरिश्ता है. So this is the kind of a scenario which it was. Yeah. 91, the scenario changed. People started earning more. Suddenly the average person was able to say, I'll buy a house, and one of the best ways you could sort of see that trend is people used to normally buy their house and car at a much later point of time. And they started suddenly, people started to buy their cars. In those days, they would start to buy the car by the time they had 10 years of work. And then it changed and they became 5 years of work. Then, credit cards happened. Then people started getting loans and banks and this and that. All of this started. What it did was, today, if you go back and check, do a simple check around you and ask how many people that in the class send money back to support their parents, That percentage is still there, but a very small percentage. Earlier, that was the norm. So in that $3,000, people would send, money to their parents or whatever they would do. But 200 रुपए भेजते थे, 500 भेजते थे, उससे ज़्यादा भेज ही नहीं सकते. That model has changed. Today, your security guard earns more. Today, the Uber driver earns more. So suddenly, we are in a place where careers can have a very different set of opportunities simply because the base salary has gone up. You join the workforce in a year of recession. Your opportunities are different. You join it in a boom time. Your opportunities are different. You join a particular sector which suddenly sees, the government regulation says कि बस तुम लोग ये नहीं कर सकते, end of file for you. Then you got to figure out something else to do. So your career is shaped by many things. Which brings me to what is career 2.0 is people have their own career, which they potentially could have studied for, but you also do a side gig. Side gig does not necessarily have to be something which you are moonlighting, but you can have a passion project. You like cooking, and then you kind of say that someday I'll start my own restaurant. Or take a singer like Palash Sen. He's a trained doctor. He is part of Euphoria, and he's built his career and known more for his music than for his medicine. He's an orthopedics guy. So that's career 2.0. Or from Excel, you have Jishnu Dasgupta of Swaratma band. He worked with Asian Paints, ITC. Came there to Bangalore, was doing all that stuff. Used to in Excel also used to be part of the Bodhi Tree band and this and that, and then decided to pursue music as his career. Yeah, plenty of examples. Joshua Karthik, he got the Distinguished Alumnus Award at the same time. So that's where I met him. Joshua finished Excel, joined Asian Paints, was doing really well, and then decided that he's going to join his brother who had done IIM Indore, left that. So he was also working in Colgate Palmolive, very successful career, marketing guy, worked for about 7-8 years, joined a design firm called Elephant Design, went there, decided to take up wedding photography. And by the way, when Joseph Radek, that's the elder brother who took up photography, wedding photography used to be charged at, so he did his first wedding photography stint, some cousin's wedding, and he was told that was $3,000 for 3 days of work. Take it or leave it, because that's what people spent. Today, the guy is the one, if you've seen even a single photograph of Katrina Kaif's wedding or Priyanka Chopra's wedding or Virat Kohli's wedding, Anushka Sharma's wedding, all of them are done by the same guy. He goes to places, he's worked across 19 countries, every continent, shot everywhere. And if you look at this career, where does it fit in? This, my friend, is career 3.0. So it's not just a side gig that becomes your future, but it's think about your skills pretty much like a pizza. Each slice of the pizza is like a different skill, and you create combination of skills and take it to the market. So the question, so for example, during the pandemic, there are tons of people. As part of this whole exercise of writing this book, I met so many people, all kinds of amazing examples of people, who are, thanks, Pratik. I met all kinds of examples of people, like there is this girl, Aisha, who worked with me on this book to do some of the research. Aisha, had dyscalculia, which is that she had fear of numbers. Now, the question is, when you do that, and she says that, I want to study physics, and she got a scholarship to study at Duke. So she did that. She went there. So she did physics and math, and then when she finished, That was a time when the US was going through a massive recession. There were no jobs there. And she, told a whole bunch of people. Somebody came and invited her and said that, okay, we've got a coder's job. Do you know how to code? She says, no, but I can learn. So they said that, okay, we are going to take you as an intern for 3 months. If you can pick up coding, we'll give you the job, but you will go as an intern. She went, she picked up coding for dummies. She picked it up, started learning code. She learned and started writing it so well. In 2 months, they said, okay, you are on. And they, gave her the job. Now, here is a person, she did that. Then she decided that she's going to come back and do an MBA. So she went to INSEAD. She did that. She got a job with BCG. BCG took her to, Mumbai. And then she kind of found that she was not enjoying that whole process. She started her own leather bag designing setup. She did that. She created a brand called Design Plum or Chocolate Plum. I don't remember the name, but she was so good at it that she started selling these bags at 12,000 to 15,000 rupees for a bag. She was competing with high design. And mind you, she had never done anything like this in her life. Somebody suggested that, why don't you attend a trade show in US? Maybe you'll get better clients. She went to that trade show. There was a stampede. Java Plum is the name of the brand. There was a stampede at the store. Zara came and told her, we will take 12,000 bags from you right now. That's the order. And we want to make you the exclusive person to do bags for us. All right. She comes in, she gets started with that. 3 things happen. The cow vigilantes come and tell her that as a Hindu, we don't want you to be working on cow leather. You have to shut the factory. 2, demonetization happened. These were all small, people. It's a small factory with 60 people, by the way. And this woman had never managed a factory in her life. She set it up, grew it to 60 people to deliver that address. She delivered the 12th thing. And then COVID happened. So then what happened? She shut it down. Zara said, we'll move you to Spain. You set up a factory there and build it. We want to do bags only with you. Meanwhile, her father, who's 78, runs a brand of ice cream in Delhi called Tangelo. Her father fell ill. She had to quit that whole process. She said, no, I can't leave the family business and go. She came back. She started working with her father. She's just launched Tangelo. Tangelo can now be bought at all the barista outlets in Delhi. And they've signed a deal. Hopefully, they'll take it across. It's the first vegan ice cream, which is sugar-free and less than 100 calories or something. So it's just an incredible thing. Careers can take many. This is Career 3.0. The world that you are going into is Career 3.0. So if you think that your career is going to be that, I will finish from here, I will join a company, then I will, get promoted and do that. That's not how it will be. I mean, for a very small percentage of people, maybe it'll be like that. I mean, you choose to go and work in the government, chances are that, yes, it'll still be like that. But for the most part, most people, it's not going to be like that. So Career 3.0 is going to be, this whole business of moving in and out of skill combinations. So this skill combination gets you something, so when I was working at Wipro, I decided that, I want to learn the skill of being an entrepreneur, because there's the first time I just thought that it's just such a completely different thing. And I just thought I should learn about it. So I decided to do that. And, the work that I did gave me a chance to sort of work with some of the really nice people. And it sort of obviously in that sense opened up the opportunity for me, which I just signed up this week with Microsoft. So I think the world so in many ways, this is the Career 3.0 model. There is going to be no age for when do you quit? I mean, a lot of times people will tell you that, you should actually, you should make your millions and retire by 30. I mean, when I was in college, people used to say, boss, 30 साल में I'll make वो 1 लाख कमा लिया तो मैं फिर उसके बाद रिटायर कर जाऊंगा. Yeah, in those days, obviously, with a salary of 2,500, 1 lakh seemed to be like the ultimate number that anybody could think of. Now think about it like this: why it will not work? Why Career 3.0 is going to be your destiny is because A, people are living longer. This is a figure I've quoted millions of times. India's average longevity in 1947 was 32 years. Today it is 72 years. Okay. You will all live to be 100. That means whatever be your age, whatever be my age, I have several decades ahead. Now the point is, even if you don't need to work for money, even if you don't, you need to work just so that you stay active mentally. कितना बियर पियोगे बॉस, कितना नेटफ्लिक्स देखोगे? If you don't believe me, try doing that for 1 month and you will go insane with boredom. So in order for you to plan for a career where you will work till 90, 100, the whole notion of career is not going to be about employment. It's going to be about skill. That is the currency. If there's one statement I want you to remember, that it's going to be skills. You have that skill combination. You have that skill combination, you are employable. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, I could have done exactly the same thing, that I could have just, because there was no reason for me to quit being an entrepreneur. My company was doing really well, and, we decided never to scale up. By the way, this is the first thing, most people will tell you that, and we got multiple times we were given offers for somebody to buy us out, this, that, and the other. We just thought, no, we will not scale it up at all. We will do niche work. We will charge at the highest rate. So our rates, we competed with the McKinseys of the world. And that was the target that we wanted, that we should really deliver work which makes people really think hard, should they work with us or should they work with any of the other branded players. So the opportunity, therefore, that I'm saying is going to be about skills. Unfortunately, in India, we look at degrees as skills. Degrees are not skills. Not at all. That's a big mistake. Your skill comes from what you are able to pick up, and skill is not just cognitive. The skill is in the relationships that you build, the ecosystem that you build. I mean, where people actually, even if you're on your own, by the way, and if you think that, oh, I'm not going to work in an organization, so I don't need to worry about, sucking up to a boss or not. Boss, that's a big mistake you're making. Because your business is going to come from people, and there's nothing anybody does or offers where there aren't 15 other cheaper substitutes possible. And the only reason people give you the work is because A, they trust you to deliver the work. 2, so that's an entry level thing, that you can do the work. I mean, you don't go to a surgeon and say, "Kya aapko surgery aati hai kya?" Obviously, aati hai. But then how do you make a choice? Is based on your relationships, so the way that you engage with people, etc., all of that. So that is what creates this. So this is the world that we are going to live in. People are living longer, companies are living shorter. It used to be like 60 years in the Standard & Poor index, and now it's about under 20 years. Believe me, with the changes that are happening, companies will now die in 12 to 15 years, which means if you stayed in the same company for 12 years, even if you are willing to continue, that company will disappear. Because most companies don't move fast enough to, survive. So I think that's where it is. Gosh, it's been a very long monologue here. अब मैं चुप हो जाता हूँ. आप सवाल पूछिए तो मैं उसका जवाब briefly दूंगा.
Yeah, please, the floor is open for questions. And I'm sure there are a lot of questions, so please. And Anybody can start, and you can also write down your questions on the chat. Mayank, you had a question, right?
No, I just had a nice, Abhijit, you've built a great brand, right? You've got a great personal brand going for yourself. You've done amazingly, I would say people reach out to you even on social media. You've got some following going there. What does it take for, and I think with such programs, and you briefly touched upon that, people do require their personal brands, right? There is a time now where people need that brand push of their own identity in the market. So what would your view be, and what did you do? What would be the tips for the batch here? What can they do differently in the next 2-3 years? What should they focus on, which can help build that personal brand as they move along and they work on the journey that they are on?
So, personal brand is really not about the number of followers. I think personal brand is about what do people trust you to do, which is where they will make a choice in your favor. Like, for example, if I were to ask you, who is India's best known heart surgeon? Mayank, who would you say?
Trehan?
Devi Shetty.
Yeah,
Devi
depending on
Shetty,
north or south.
Trehan. Yes.
Now, let me ask you, have you ever met Trehan or Devi Shetty?
Trehan,
Incidentally,
yes,
I
but
have,
not Shetty, yes.
I mean, not in terms of a public speaking or something, but you've never met him as a patient.
Not
right?
experienced him, yes.
The point I'm making is, then how did you decide that he's the best person? That is a personal brand, and it is built only on one thing, which is reputation. That you are seen to be an expert who is so reliable. Imagine if Devi Shetty, your loved one needs critical care, where it's one surgery is a do or die. And Devi Shetty says, I will do the surgery, but you got to come at 3 o'clock at night. Will you come at 3 o'clock? Yes, bloody hell, you will go there.
Yes.
If he says stand on your head and do this, you will do it. That's the point I'm saying. That because you have so much of faith that if I go to this guy, it will happen. So it is not just competence. I mean, of course he's competent, but a lot of it is based on what he does for others, where you do things for a larger number of people. So I think Devi Shetty is a great example, or Trehan is a great example of, they've built institutions, they've helped people along the way, and they sort of, they are the voice of reason in many ways. So that, I think, is the personal brand. HR is no different. I mean, if you are known to be something where everybody, by and large, and I think it's built on the fact that you do things for people who can't pay you back. See, otherwise, if you're doing things for somebody, when you're doing that, that is, that's very easy. I mean, a client calls me, he's going to pay my fees, so, good, bad, ugly, I don't care, he doesn't care. Wo paisa de raha hai, main karunga. But people will judge you for where you are able to do things, even where the person has no way of paying you back. So therefore, for strangers, for, whatever, so you do that. So I think that is the, that is the way that I would sort of really look at it.
No, beautiful. I mean, but you also touched upon the values piece then. You're also saying that what you innately value, and you're doing that. And for HR folks, how do you see that? Because many a times they have to succumb or do things which may not be agreeing to, but they have to do it because the business is asking, and it hits the reputation in a certain sense that within the company, maybe outside the company, I don't know, but yeah, it does push them back and hits them bad. So what would you advise there?
Actually, I think that expertise trumps everything else. part of the way to build your credibility and sort of is the fact that you know something so much better, that you have the ability to two capabilities that show expertise. First thing is, are you able to teach it in a manner which is absolutely engaging? If you go onto YouTube and look at some of the people who have millions of followers, I mean, everybody has just one common skill, which is they are able to simplify something which was very complex, or usko simplify. Ye Khan sir, you may have seen those videos. The first time you may have heard of Khan sir is because he did this explainer on what is RT-PCR test.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody has seen that. वो कहाँ से देखा आपने? ना तो आप उसके पास जाते हैं पढ़ने, ना कुछ होता है. How do you know that? This is credibility. So people will say that this guy can explain it better than anybody else. In the same way, you look at on Instagram, there's this girl called Ishna Kutti. She does hoop dancing. What used to be so she calls herself a flow artist. Whatever, that's a branding process. But she just enjoys dancing with the hoop. And she's like such a natural. And she simplifies it and says, boss, tum bhi kar sakte ho. Do a 30-minute class with me. It is so popular that her mother, who's a journalist in a business line, she used to tell me that mera dimag kharab ho jata hai. Mere friends bolte hain, tum usko bolo mere ko class mein le. And I'm willing to pay more to go for the class. ये कितना charge करे? 20,000 मैं 40,000 दे दूंगी. Why can't I be taken? She said, but I have
Yes,
no
I heard of that.
control over this.
Yes.
This is personal brand. So the ability to teach is one aspect. Simplify and teach. The other is to make it so interesting that you want to learn from that person. And the social media is a great place where you can sort of see who are the people. I mean, for example, classical music. Yeah. Very often, so I have some sort of interest in classical music and all that. The person you should really look at is Kaushiki Chakravarti. She's got like thousands of people.
Absolutely.
She teaches little pieces. She'll give a challenge. Acha, can you do this? Obviously, what she does effortlessly, hum log kar hi nahi sakte. And she's got the whole ready group sitting there, young people who are sitting. And so anybody who says young people are not interested in classical music, I refuse to believe that. You need to have somebody who can make it so interesting that aapko lage ki boss, ye to mujhe karna hai. So this is the skill that is going to be most important for anybody. HR needs to be that person who can have credibility because they can do something better than what anybody else can. So the second factor is ability to predict. Simplify is one. The ability to predict is the other. So I can, for example, in hiring, you're asking questions, I am asking questions, but I'm able to tell you that this guy will be able to be a top performer. Are you able to see what nobody else can see? The best of the doctors, they will tell you, this guy he's got another 7 days to live. Kaise pata chalta hai? This is the ability that creates credibility. So simplifying and the ability to, predict. So these are the two
Beautifully
things
put.
we can.
There are a lot of questions, Abhijit, on the chat as well.
Please.
Yes,
yeah.
I think you should take them up.
Yeah. So I thought Prateek's question was pretty interesting. Prateek, would you want to ask it?
Please.
Sure, Abhijit. Abhijit, kudos to you for acing the digital landscape. But I wanted to ask, what is your view on T-shaped careers? Assuming that we will stay in our current domains for rest of lives and we don't move to do something else. So T-shaped careers is something that is propagated by a lot of people. So what's your view?
The definitions have changed in the sense that we used to talk about T-shaped careers. Then at one point of time, I think when I wrote the book Digital Tsunami, I talked about the pie-shaped thing, that two opposing things. So somebody who's really good in analytics is also good in storytelling. So the hard skill, soft skill combination kind of a thing. I talked about it. Then there are people who talk about the comb-shaped thing, that it's a skill combination. Career 3.0, my research actually talks about the fact that you are continuously building different skills, and those slices are different skills, and you create combinations. So, for example, I kind of think that the line between what's a hobby and what's a profession, it gets blurred. If you are able to do that, you really have a hell of a good time. So, for instance, I've enjoyed drawing. So nobody has to tell me that you need to do this. And this is also the way that I naturally take notes. So when I was teaching at Excel, I used to sort of use these cartoons and all that stuff to simplify things and make things interesting in the workshops. I'm bringing what would have been a hobby, I brought it into my professional space. I'm using it. I use drawings for each and every one of my, my articles, my presentations, and all of that. And at some point of time, when this gathers momentum, you get paid to do exactly the same thing. So that skill becomes monetized. So when it gets monetized, somebody is willing to pay for it. That is the sign of that you should be looking at, not because you're doing it to make money. Monetization simply means that you have now been able to create value for somebody else. That's why. So
Abhijit,
I would sort of really look at that.
Sorry,
Yes,
Abhijit,
please.
but my question was broadly on the career path, not on skill. Say I develop a deep expertise in something and I move up the ranks. And when I move up the ranks, I am required to have a broad overview of a lot of things. So, is that's what I meant by when I said T-shaped careers path.
Yeah. Sorry, apologies. I think I misunderstood your question. Pratik, I think, you pretty much have to choose whether there's some broad choices. Like, I did do the broader CHRO kind of a role. And then I decided that was not something I really enjoyed doing, because I thought I like to do a role which has a very different set of offerings. So I found the role in learning and development to be far more meaningful for me. And because I wanted to do that, I made a career choice to take a step back. I would have made more money if I had become a CHRO, but I felt I would do that. Having said that, if you become a specialist, you should be able to take it across multiple sectors. So, how does learning and development change, let's say, in manufacturing versus advertising versus, say, consumer goods and technology and all of that? So that's one kind of a way that you make that change. The other is to actually say that if this role were to be future focused, what skills would make it future focused? That's really how I would sort of view it. And that's what will make it possible for us to, stay relevant. So I would continuously look at one yardstick would be skills is your currency, and skill combinations is what makes it precious. 3, find ways where you create value for other people. So the moment you start teaching it and things like that, you start creating value for other people. And that's one of the fastest ways in which you can sort of do that. So that's what I would look at.
So I'm adding in people
Thanks.
who have, sort of raised their hands. So there's Tamasa and then
Please.
Rajiv. Why don't you just ask your questions?
Tomasa, you want to go first?
No, Rajiv, carry on.
Yeah. I've got a question. You talked about career shifting. I know some of the people who left their long career job and move into their entrepreneurship kind of settings. But what I've seen that they start with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of passion with a plan. But somewhere in the midway they get stuck, maybe because of the financial pressure or maybe the social pressure, and they reach you to a confusion kind of stage. So what would be your advice on such kind of things, how to plan or how to revive that kind of stage?
One of the things, when it comes to, see, I think one way to think about it is every great cricketer has not necessarily been a great captain. Yeah. Sachin Tendulkar as a cricketer, as a captain, two different kinds of outcomes. Yeah. Dhoni as a cricketer, as a captain. Very few people manage both equally well. The reason for that is the skills that are needed to be successful as an entrepreneur are completely different from what you need to succeed as an employee. And if your offering is not right, what are you going to the market for? So this is what you are going to do. How are you different? What way are you different? And that's the professional goodwill that you should have built, that helps you get business, helps you get discovered. Look, if today I tell you that, I'm like really good at yoga. I'm not, but suppose I said that about myself, right? How would you know that? If tomorrow you are looking for a yoga teacher, how would you know that you should contact me? And maybe I can teach it online and do everything. And I'm much better than every yoga teacher that you know. I'm better than, BK Iyengar. But you don't know that about me. So how will you come to me? And therefore, if this is my business, guaranteed it will fail. Right? So you have to make sure that you can be discovered. And one of the ways to do it is that, as you teach it online, in multiple ways, it helps sharpen your skill. You are also seeding your buyer base, so people will come to you for that. And then thereafter, it's a question of, how deep is your expertise? How do you differentiate yourself? Running a business is a very different thing. And there are many other things. I mean, for example, one of the big things I learned as an entrepreneur, like I'm completely not financially savvy. I'm just not. I'm zero at it. But one of the first things that I learned as an entrepreneur was, somebody told me that, you could sell business worth, let's say, 2 million, you get a $2 million contract. That doesn't mean anything to me, because what matters is how much money do you have in the bank, the cash flow. Because यार जो तुम्हारे 2.5 employees जो है उनको पैसा तो तुम वो 2 million से नहीं दोगे. You will give them, if you have 2,000 in the bank, that's what you have to pay. People just don't get this. So they focus on expanding their offering. So I will do this, I will do this, I'll do this, I'll do this. No, suddenly you build. आपने एक महीने में 40 लाख बेच दिया, ठीक है, बहुत अच्छी बात है, लेकिन आपके जेब में कलेक्शन जो है वो नहीं आया है. Now, as an employee, you never worry about that, no? Because आपको तो महीने के एंड में वो आ जाता है पैसा, टड़ांग से वो SMS आता है, and you are like happy. So you working as an employee just makes you really unprepared to succeed as an entrepreneur. You don't worry about building your skills when it's not needed, right? I mean, I'm telling you about myself. When I look back today, when I go back as an employee, I'm a very different employee today. Because and I was just talking to my team yesterday, actually today, I was talking to my team, and this guy was telling me, boss, I'm like a learning experience designer, which he's very good at it. I mean, absolutely outstanding. I don't worry about how, how it will be adopted. मैंने कहा, hello, किसके लिए तुम बना रहे हो यार? Experience design for whom? For yourself? It's really stupid idea. Now think about it. A lot of us have this point of view. I've seen writers say the same thing. Boss, I don't worry about the audience. मैं तो अपने लिए लिखता हूँ. अबे तो डायरी में लिखना. किताब भी छापेगा, सोचेगा कि मैं अपने लिए लिख रहा हूँ, ऐसा नहीं होता है. You actually need to pay to read what you don't like yourself. I mean, it doesn't work like that. So your orientation has to be very different when you're an entrepreneur. Hence, there are many, many factors why people fail. It's not just one. Tamasa.
Yeah, Abhijit, I would really want you to be a little more crisper. There are a lot of questions and there's less time. Yeah.
No, I will extend my time. Don't worry about it.
Okay, great.
If you are
but it's too late for you, so I'm very conscious of that. It's going to be 12 o'clock in the night there in Seattle.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Hi, Abhijit. I'm Tamasa. I recently joined Wipro and I'm working in the talent acquisition space. My question, so this group is a good mix of Gen Y and millennials. Employers are constantly looking at younger talent. So I would love to hear from you, how can we constantly keep ourselves relevant and kind of take it head on with the perpetual competition that's kind of going on?
When you say keep myself relevant, as in you as an professional, HR professional, how do you stay relevant?
Yes.
Yeah, I would sort of say that, in whatever expertise is built when you understand the entire landscape. So for example, one way to think about it is, if you wanted to be good in literature, you first need to learn the alphabet, and then you sort of build words, then you sort of figure out. So that means you need to know there are 26 possible alphabets. You don't just do 2, 3, 5, and you sort of do vowels and then say consonants chhod do yaar, exam mein aaj tak kabhi consonants pucha nahi hai. You need to know all 26, because it's only then that you will be able to really be an expert. It's only when you are an expert that you will be able to say, okay, in this particular instance, I can only use these 4 things to make a word. So, I think just knowing everything about that particular subject. So for example, if you are in compensation, I would say incentive design for salespeople, for senior levels, ESOPs, this, that, everything. And then looking at it by sector, by industry, by levels, by, early in career, late in career, all kinds of things. If you are able to do that, I mean, that's really what you are looking to do to build expertise. So just do everything in depth. And I'm saying as if I did that when I was at Excel. I was just the most sort of, least committed student possible. I learned the hard way much later. So, that's what I have today, that's what I have, learned, that I should have made better use of my time. Thank you.
Anita, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Hi, Vijay. So my question is, you've done various roles, learning officer, now the larger talent role, CHRO. So what's your advice for people like us, especially who are like in mid of their careers and aspiring for CHRO opportunities? By design, what kind of experiences we must gain so that we are seen as a step up CHRO? Because when we have internal talent reviews, a lot is focused on what a person has done hands-on, right? So to be able to, view as a great CHRO, what proactively we should sort of pick up as experiences which should help us get these opportunities.
So, any skill is built in 3 different ways. One is education, second is experience, and third is exposure. So education is, you read up, and today there are, you should have read all possible ways in which that particular skill is done. You know the theory behind it. I know in India, one of the biggest things you can say is this is very practical, it's not theoretical. That's an absolutely idiotic mindset. Please don't ever have it. If you don't know the theory, would you rather trust a doctor who knows where your heart and liver is? What's the difference between the spaces? Okay, by approximate idea, heart yahi kahin hai. You don't want that, right? So expertise is built when you know really well your theory. So that's the first thing I will say. Exposure comes from looking at, going beyond what you are sort of doing that. So listen to podcasts. There are so many people who talk about different things, different industries, and try and build the connection between that in the work that you do. For example, if you say you watch somebody talk about TikTok videos, sort of just ask yourself, okay, TikTok videos, what can I do to implement that idea and principle in the work that I do? So that's your experience. As you try it out in different things, do different projects. Don't worry about the company rewarding you and promoting you for everything that you are doing. If you focus on building your skill, you own your career, and you will be able to, get rewarded and whatever, acknowledged for what you are. and the company will be the one to compete for your attention. So I think this three is how I would sort of look at it.
So own your skill and design your career.
Yes.
So, Surbi, you had a question saying that, whatever Abhijit has been saying is difficult to
Yeah,
do.
thanks, Rashmi. With every time he talks about expertise and just the example that he just gave about education, experience, exposure to build your expertise, it kind of becomes very difficult for me to understand deep expertise plus the combination of skills for career 3.0 are kind of contrasting. It's capturing the depth as well as managing the breadth. The same question which Pratik asked, the T-shaped careers that we are talking about. So I was looking at top 3 crisp tips that probably I should keep in mind as I get this. So
I would sort of say that first build depth, and then use that depth in different sectors and different settings, contexts. So first build content, and which is depth, and then you sort of build content across different contexts. You apply it to see what you need to tweak. So that's the way to sort of really keep doing that. As you do that, you'll add more content gaps and all that. You will sort of discover that. So I would first focus on, being the expert in whatever job that you're doing, really being the super expert on that, and then sort of changing the context at a later point of time. And the context change can also happen when let's say you do a cross-functional stint, in your same company. You don't have to, your career 2.0 can happen even with the same employer. You can do a small project. Let's say you are in talent acquisition. Nothing stops you from volunteering to do extra work and learn about, let's say, compensation or benefits or whatever, learning and development or data analytics. By all means, do it,
Yeah.
So
yeah, Abhijit, the good part is as you build expertise, the external, internal environments are shifting gears. The landscape is changing. So there's a constant reinvention that you need to be doing to yourself, even within that expertise area. So yeah, all great points. Thank you.
thank you so much. I hope this was slightly better than what I said before.
Thanks,
Okay.
thanks, Surbi. Shayan, you would want to go with your question?
Chan?
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
first of all, Abhijit, I've always been amazed by your writings. As a student, I used to read a lot of your writings that used to come in business magazines.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, but currently, although I'm, heading the talent for Coca-Cola in east of India, but I'm more into the public life as well. So every time I venture out, and since my role is also to get talent, whether in corporate or in public life, one challenge that I face, or I think most of the leaders face nowadays, is that we are getting people who have a lot of hard talent, analytical skills and all those things, but we are not getting people who has softer skills and which are more relevant going into future, like persuasion, convincing skills. So how do you think any organization, whether that is a corporate organization, an NGO, or any other organization, what do you think the organization should do so that they can inculcate those skills in people, which will in fact be matter more in the future?
So, I think it's a great question. One of the things is the way that we pick up hard skills is very different from the way that we pick up soft skills. Hard skills can be learned solo. I can teach myself coding, like Aisha did, the example that I gave. But the soft skills can only be done in parallel with other human beings, so therefore soft skills, when people say that, I'll teach you negotiation skills across the thing on Zoom, it's very hard to do that. Yeah, you will get it conceptually. The problem is that skill development, especially soft skills, they have to have an emotional component. You remember something because there's an emotional component. We did some kind of a negotiation and you lost and you felt, oh my God, I should have never done that. When he did this, I should have done. This is what you will remember. Yeah. So it's not, because otherwise you could have read a book about negotiation skills, William Urey's book, you read it and you are done. Why does why does Yuri get called? I mean, when I called him many years back, I mean, he charged like a fortune to, come and do a 2-day workshop. And I was wondering, why do people call this guy? Because his book is right there. I mean, we can just read it here. 200 rupees ki kitab hai, wo pad lo. But you realize when the way he talks about it, it generates a certain amount of clarity and the examples. And this guy says, oh, when, Yasser Arafat was negotiating with this, and this is what, and you kind of see that the principle remains the same. So, every example of that clarifies this entire thing. I can never forget that. So then that is what that's why education is not enough. Exposure, which is what, attending that did for me, that, I got exposure to that. And I've attended multiple sessions with different people and that. So many different formats, I've learned the same thing. And see, the other mistake we make is in an organizational context, let's say you're sending me for whatever, some soft skills, persuasion skills. If I've attended a workshop once, I will never attend it again in my life. What an idiotic assumption that is. We don't learn everything at one go. Like even our school system, that is why the person who's, let's say you take a test, somebody who scores 100 gets promoted to the next class, the guy who's got 40 also is promoted to the next class. But for the next guy who's got 40, there's a massive learning gap. Now on that, when you are building and when you're building and you're building, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And there comes a point of time, the only way the guy can clear the exam is by mugging. He knows the answer. So if you have to really do that, that is the place soft skills can only be built through that exposure and repeated interaction and failure and feedback. But that becomes so much harder because somebody telling you that you're not good. I mean, you look at all the advice columns. Most people, are trying to figure out how do I manage my boss who gives me really tough feedback. So then guess who's not going to improve here? Uska kya bigड़ता है? वो तो चला जाएगा. तुमको fantastic, damn good, and then it doesn't work like that. Soft skills are necessarily built through iteration, multiple feedback. Somebody gives you the feedback, you try it out, you do that. And so being able to work with your harshest critics is the best way to build soft skills.
Thanks, Abhijit.
Okay.
Thank you, Shayan. Prashant Anubhav. Prashant, why don't you go next?
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi. So Abhijit, sort of personal question.
Sure.
I mean, at least me, I kind of play on a broader canvas than just looking at myself as HR or something, in one function, right? So 2 parts to my question. One is, you have changed courses a few times. What made you do that? Did you really plan for it? That's the first one. And second one is, in these kind of change of courses for a few times, did you regret doing that? You are pretty well placed doing what you did, right? So
I think the trigger for change in most cases was when I was getting bored. So getting bored for me is always correlated with, if the work doesn't stimulate the mind, I mean, I get bored. So my boredom threshold is very low, which sort of explains in some sense why I made some changes. But there have been places where I spent longer times. So for example, I spent almost 10 years in Colgate, because they moved me between India and then in an APAC role and then in a global role and all of that. Or for that matter in Wipro, where I spent 7 years, because it was in the same role, same place, everything. But the opportunity for me to experiment was so fascinating that I just, didn't feel the need to change. Whereas many of the other places in the earlier stages of my career were 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years. Tata Steel was a 5-year stint because I really enjoyed it, because it gave me a chance to work in Tata Steel, also teach at XLRI. So, which was a unique combination. I went to Mudra because it was a chance to do, the HR role. I joined them as the HR director. But for me, the bigger attraction was the ability to set up MICA, which had nothing to do with HR, by the way. But just the whole experience of doing that was just so fascinating. So I, in doing that, So I didn't really go by, this whole thing that my batchmates have already become vice president, I should become that as well. Because I kind of thought that it's just not, it's not something that gives me any joy. So I just thought I'd sort of do that. So that's what it is. Have I made mistakes in that? Yes. There have been times when I think I jumped into a role in IR, a very early stage of my career. I jumped into a role in IR and sort of did that. While I did that role, I somehow managed to complete it. It's the most harrowing experience of my life, even though it was professionally, it was successful. But I just thought that it's just not me. It's really like somebody tells me for the rest of your life, you'll write with your left hand, and I'm right-handed. So it would be miserable for me. I would never feel I've enjoyed writing whatever I do. So yes, there have been mistakes, of course.
Thank you, Abhijit, for being so candid. And Prashant, in fact, is a person who's not in HR. We have 2-3 candidates in the course who are not from HR background, and Prashant is one of them. So I think he's also
Perfect.
career 3.0 bucket right now. Thank you, Prashant. Anubha, you want to go next?
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Rashmi, for putting me on spotlight today. And Abhijit sir, thank you a lot. First of all, I remember we spoke somewhere around in 2020 when you helped me making my career choice when I was entering into my own startup. So thanks a lot for that. Here, I have a different question. I see a lot of exposure, but like, how would you say when your strength becomes a weakness to your boss? So like, I am a happy-go-lucky person. I always go with a lot of energy, always cheerful. The moment I enter and I see her, I see a lot of pain, on her face. So if I say something with so much of energy, she'll say, "Don't you think you should little low down, Anubhav?" So like, why do you think that people don't take your skills so positively and they try to make you little
But
low?
why should the whole world be, perennially in awe of you? Why
I
should
have
it?
no clue. Maybe I'm so happy-go-lucky. People
Which
don't
is
think
fine.
that.
Then you should remain happy-go-lucky regardless of the approval of the others. That's the other piece that we, and now I'm sort of saying this in retrospect because I've also gone through the same cycles myself. We kind of go with the assumption that, I've put an idea. It is for the world to now get fascinated by the idea and just sort of, just say, "Arey yaar, Abhijit kya babas." ऐसा नहीं होता है यार, कोई नहीं करता है ऐसा, and it's bound to be like that, and we need to work hard. Every time you work hard, you may not be rewarded. This is not something which is happening to us for the first time. In human history, the first time somebody has not been recognized. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. So we will need to work with all kinds of scenarios. So the dictionary definition of career is our journey through life. It is not just about work, but there'll be time when everything is going great. But I was in US in the previous stint in Colgate. I had worked there for 10 years. I had just bought a house. I had settled down. Everything was hunky-dory. And then suddenly, I lost both my parents in the span of a week, 10 days, and because of that, I came back to India and continued being here. So I gave up whatever I was doing at that point of time, which is, now, was this a planned thing? Suppose I said, "Oh my God, how irresponsible of my parents to have died when everything was going great for me. You ruined it for me." The world is not designed to make sure that I will have like the happiest this thing. But I was glad that I came there for them. It was sad that they went away so quickly. But the reality is that in doing that and coming back, and I have no regrets for it, I think it opened up another set of opportunities. That path, I don't know what it would have done, but this opened up a different set of opportunities. So I think the world is full of possibilities. So the more you are able to, if this person is not what is getting recognized, maybe look at some other role. Maybe instead of wondering what's wrong with the other person, we can't control what the other person is going to do. We can control our reaction. So then I would sort of really focus on doing what I can, because that's the agility I'd like to build in myself so that I can work with as many different people. Because when you're on your own, if that's what you want to do, believe me, you will work with all kinds of clients, and the clients, because they pay you, a lot of clients will, treat you like really badly because they believe that they are sort of paying you. And therefore it's part of, and this is a sort of a standard mindset a lot of people work with. So now you can either decide कि अच्छा तो मैं काम ही नहीं करूँगा उसके साथ, मत करो. You are one of the many vendors here. You have to understand we are all fairly disposable. So I just think that being an
No ego is
entrepreneur, you have to
required.
realize that.
So I think keeping ego aside. Yeah.
पूछो ना रश्मि, क्या मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ कि गलत बोल रहा हूँ, बताइए.
No, 100%. And once you're an entrepreneur, you realize that ego, there is no space for it. And I like the fact when you said, Abhijit, that every employee should actually think like an entrepreneur, because it is important, because you're so complacent with your salary coming in and your benefits and your leaves, etc., that you
It
do
just
not
makes it
appreciate it.
impossible for you to survive as an entrepreneur. Everything is designed against you as an employee. It is you.
Yeah.
When you are preparing for career 1.0, and the day the company decides to lay you off, there's nothing you can do. So
Rashmi,
that is the tragedy.
I have tried to be an entrepreneur while I am an employee. The first hurdle is your boss. It's not easy.
But then maybe that is what you have to solve for, because at the end of the day, even that's something that you have to solve for.
It's always easy to blame the other person. I think we should always look at ourselves first.
And I think even as whether as an employee or as an entrepreneur, I think I always put a lot of weight on that. And the song which says, "मैं पल दो पल का शायर हूँ, पल दो पल मेरी कहानी है, पल दो पल मेरी हस्ती है, पल दो पल मेरी जवानी है." So the skills that you have, they're very ephemeral. It'll keep disappearing. And today you are on a good wicket. Tomorrow your boss will change you. You're going to get to work with somebody who has no value for you, who thinks you are absolute rubbish. And the other way around, somebody it's completely discarded you, and the next person who comes in thinks that you are the greatest thing to happen. So it'll keep happening during our career. So the world doesn't owe anything to us. हमेशा तुम्हारी पूजा होगी, ऐसा नहीं होता है.
It's always a curve. Yeah, Shweta, you want to go next, and I'm really conscious of time. I think another 5 minutes.
Don't worry about it. It's okay. We'll address all the questions. I'm here. We found time. We will do all of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Abhijit. First of all, I think thanks for being so relatable. You seem to be like one of us for some reason. So I have 3 questions, and you can take it in whatever order you want to. So you spoke about career 3.0, and you said that elements of relationship building will become extremely critical in 3.0, right? And is expertise the only segue to relationship building is my first question, because I do see a lot of people in and around myself who may not be deep content experts, yet are humongously reliable, and they still have a personal brand that people will still reach out to them, but they may not yet be, they're not deep content experts. So that's my first question. Second, does sometimes in your life your organization brand work against you? Does it become so big that you somewhere, and that's something I do personally feel, that you sometimes feel कि आप दब गए उस brand के नीचे, and your brand, building your personal brand externally becomes a humongous challenge, because there are limitations which your organizational brand probably has put in, right? So that's my second. And third, I think, how have you ever handled a value clash, personal value clash between you and your organization? Did you ever had a situation, and what did you do about it?
Let me start with the last one. That's an easy answer. So I said that, I made a wrong choice when I joined IR, so I was working for this company, paint company. And, one of the things that happened was that I found the entire system through which you have to operate, you got to sort of figure out how to bribe the labor commissioner. But the guy would sit in his office with an open suitcase and sort of was accepting money. Uska koi rishtedar paas mein baitha rehta tha, he used to sort of take money. I said, this is absolute bunk. I'm not going to do this work. So, so I decided that I'm going to step out of that entire thing. While that's why I said that while, all the things which was to sign the agreements and do all that stuff and do a lot of, we had fairly successful IR in that sense. But that system I just thought used to drain my energy, and I didn't do it. So the friction that it caused, I just thought life is too short to be miserable with all them. So that's one of the places where I exercise that choice. Also, I made a choice to move into something which, because I walked away from that, there's one of the times I said that if you walk away from something, you sometimes don't make the right choice. I was very lucky. I made the right choice because I got into Tata Steel and did that leadership management development stint, which today I'm the beneficiary of. Yeah. So that's your first. Second part आपका था कि अगर personal brand आपका दब जाता है from the company. Yes, it does. I mean, so suppose I told you I am the head of HR for the mafia. I mean, regardless of what great work I'm doing as a HR person, you would sort of judge me to begin with. It is something that you can't walk away from. You are also the beneficiary that sometimes, if I told you that I work for NASA, I may be cleaning windows, but the fact that I told you I work for NASA, you might think that, hey, boss, matlab bahut hi genius hoga. It may not be. Yeah. So it works both ways. Therefore, I'd make a fairly good choice in terms of seeing what I would do, what kind of choices I make by way of a career. But, sometimes you are unable to change that. Circumstances में आपको वहीं पे जाना है, so it हो जाता है. तो ठीक है, उस वक्त any downtime in your career is an opportunity to build skills. See, as an entrepreneur, one of the things I learned is, as an employee, you get paid for the days you show up in office, right? उसके लिए आपको तनख्वाह मिलती है. But when you become an entrepreneur, you actually have to use your downtime to upskill yourself, create your next S curve. Because if you don't do that, you will not be relevant. You will not. People will say, वही यार एक वही है, वही दो गाने उसको आते हैं. So you have to sort of really use your downtime to really upskill yourself. So that's downtime is a real blessing. I wrote during the pandemic. I wrote the book. It's the fastest book I've written. This is the thickest. Dreamers and Unicorns, which you see behind me. That was written during the pandemic. I started writing it, in the first this thing, and in 90 days I finished. This is the thickest book I've written. So I used that downtime because I thought this whole nonsense is going to last for at least 3-4 months. I might as well use it to finish my book because there was no business. Nobody was doing anything, right? So it was zero business. So that's the second thing. Your first question, remind me again.
So my first question was, what are in the career 3.0, you said relationship building is going to be
people who are not necessarily, people who are not necessarily experts, but they still get called because of their personal brand. So I would sort of really talk about it in two or three different ways. Simple way to think about it is talent has three components. One is, your ability to learn what you haven't learned, what you haven't been taught before. To continuously pick up stuff. The second component is your ability to work with people who nobody else can work with, therefore relationships. And how likable are you, because at the end of the day, do people root for you? They cheer for you when something good happens, or would they say, "Arey, isko to isliye mila hai ki because whatever ABC reason." That's the second piece. So likability is your second factor, and the third factor is drive. That are you, even when you are really at the top of your game, do you have the drive to really, when you're hitting 99 out of 100, do you work those extra 2 hours to go to 99.1, even though pass marks is 33? You're already way ahead, so I think just doing that is probably the best way to describe. When people are, if they are good in 2 out of the 3, you could be reasonably successful, any 2. But then you've got to be disproportionately good in the other 2. I mean, for example, Steve Jobs, terrible in the likability, hateful character, but it's just brilliant
content.
Yeah, or Elon Musk, terrible as a human being, but look at the, drive, look at the, ability to learn stuff and all that. I mean, so sort of, yeah. Would I want to work with somebody like that? My answer is no. But then, he's certainly doing things which are solving huge problems.
Yeah.
But has no problem destroying a company for the heck of it. Takes up Twitter, just chhed ke usko khatam karke chala gaya. I mean, what kind of a human being is it? I mean, you read about his personal life. I mean, so yeah, but that's a different side of the person. I don't want to get into that. I have no business commenting on that. But I'm saying the three elements, you got to be really good at 2 out of the 3. If the third one is weak, your likability score is weak, boss, then you better be exceptional in the other 2. वहां पे average होगा तो फिर पिटाई हो जाएगी.
Yes. No, I think this is very helpful, because I think what I'm taking away is that the people I'm talking about, their likability score is exceptional and their drive to probably push the team is exceptional. So through which they drive innovation. So they themselves may not be content experts or leaders, but they still like maximize the value out of others.
Completely. Yeah.
Super. Thank you so much. All the best for your next stint.
Thank you, Shweta. So, so we have Priya here who also wants to ask a question. So Abhijit, I just wanted to give you a little demographics of the class. So we have, the age group, the experience group of people average is 18 years, but it ranges from 8 years to 28 years. So Priya is one of the youngest, student in the class with 8 years of experience. So she's here to ask the question. Thank you.
Thanks, Rashmi, for the introduction. So, hi, Abhijit, and good to see you here. And like Rashmi said, and also what Prashant mentioned, like I'm not into HR domain. I'm a lawyer by profession, and like currently working as an in-house counsel in a manufacturing company. Now that I have taken up this course, and like what you mentioned, like you should add your skill and then, take some experience in that skill and then create expertise and then get your exposure into it. Now, I want to understand from you that, when I was taking up this course, I wanted to kind of add HR skills and complement it with my existing law degree to pivot my career into next level. What would be your advice for someone like me, who would like to complement its primary degree with another degree and then, see yourself where it takes you? And I see that you're also a lawyer by degree.
I know. I was just going to tell you that.
So what would be your advice, and how do I see myself in career 3.0 version? So really looking forward to your advice.
First of all, the fact that you are already doing, I think this is something I don't have a very firm point of view, but because there are some people who are born to be career 3.0. But a lot of people, majority of the people do a career 1, career 2, career 3, so that's one way to, so what you are doing is an obvious example of that is a career 2.0 kind of a move that, you're building that thing. The next thing is to actually say that how do you create combinations where you can apply these different kinds of things. So for example, even though I did law many, many 100 years back, but I think what happened was, like when I became an entrepreneur, I had to sign a whole bunch of contracts, and these were being sent by companies like you do a Disney. I mean, Disney sends you something like this with thick of a contract to sign.
100-page, 200-page contract.
हाँ, बिल्कुल. अब वो उसमें आपने कुछ भी वो कर दिया तो बस, as far as you are concerned, you signed your life away. Or for that matter, when you work with the World Bank, multiple kinds of things. So
liabilities, indemnities, and blah blah things.
And which basically means that 20 साल के बाद ही किसी ने कुछ किया तो you will be behind bars. So you have to know. It was so powerful for me to have that exposure earlier as a lawyer. It was really useful. So I think it was great. This whole point that I think you've got to start creating skill combinations, so just keep that pizza example in mind. You just, you got broad 2 categories of skills. So think about it as you got a base as, let's say, a lawyer, then you've got the cheese that you are now putting in. There are different toppings and you carve out different slices that you can offer to different sectors and industries. Maybe, just figure out one of the best ways to discover what are you passionate about is to actually see that, let's say, if you had to leverage technology as your third wing, that, you bring that in. So career 3.0 is another way to look at it is career 1.0 is 1 skill monetized, career 2.0 is 2 skills monetized, 3.0 is 3 skills monetized. So, what is the third skill? Maybe technology, because most
So I've
jobs
already done that. Like I have added my legal operations skill, where you are kind of making things optimize and make your companies work less, but automate more, in the sense, things are on a technology front picking up. So legal department also, how they are leveraging those skills. So that I have already added now that I am venturing into HR skills. So the 3 combination you have spotted very correctly. How do I,
so now you've got a combination. Now see where you can monetize it, by making your choice of employers and wherever, and maybe so as you're working with Lead Up at some point of time, this cohort becomes a great part of the ecosystem that you should be able to leverage. And that will open up new kinds of opportunities for you. So this is an endless process, because we are just at the, in the sense that it's really like, you're at the beginning of a 100-year career, so, whatever be your age, you've got 8 years now. I mean, if you have to do another 75 years, very hard to say what should you be doing, but these are some of the things that I believe going forward, some of the big areas where shifts will happen is going to be around, I'm cleaning the screen of my computer, that's why. The next set of changes is going to be in the social humanities and the softer skills and the people related skills, because technology and a lot of the other things that traditionally, technology has done, machines have done, are going to get automated, so that's like, for example, one of the things that struck me is the version of Teams that Microsoft uses internally. Transcription and all that and closed captioning is automated. So you don't need to worry about taking notes at all. It just removes this whole thing that you can just simply transcribe that we are now going to have this discussion. Okay, you will do this, you will do this. Automatically is there, it gets emailed to you right away automatically. So there's nothing you need to do. But to manage this conversation that you said we'll go left, I said we'll go right, how do we negotiate and sort of do that? Do I have to leverage my position and do it, or do I do it based on the other stuff that I persuade you? So those are things by which you will be able to make that difference. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think I've sort of killed everybody's Saturday morning. Now if I don't let you people go, you will never call me again, which will be very unfortunate.
Thank you so much, Abhijit, and I know it's just 20 minutes past midnight for you there, so a real big thank you from our side. I just want to summarize what you said. Your biggest opportunity is your skills, and you can build it in 3 ways, through education, experience, and exposure. Your personal brand is built on only one thing, which is reputation and trust. And that can happen in 3 ways, where you can, your ability to teach, simplifying what you're delivering, and ability to predict. And the third thing that you said, which remained with me, is that employees should think like an entrepreneur, and you are just, your career is quite a long career. So you need to take risk and start experimenting with it. So anything that I've missed, I'm sure the other people have also taken notes. So thank you so much, Abhijit. Best of luck on your new career, and I think this will be again a part of your journey. I'm sure there's more to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated. See you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.